Hello and welcome to the Reading Some English podcast. Today's episode is an interview with an English teacher from China who lives in Tokyo. We have a chat about the differences between English learning in different countries and also about how you can feel different when you speak different languages, which is super interesting. There are plenty of idioms, phrasal verbs, and a special focus on different uses of the verb get. Remember, you can get the transcripts for this and all episodes on the Real Exam English website, realexamenglish.com. Okay, let's go for it. Where are you from?
I'm from China.
Okay, where do you live?
Oh, now I live in Japan. I live in Tokyo, but I was born and raised in China.
Okay, great. Is English widely spoken in those countries?
Well, I think in China, especially the big cities, I think, yeah, it's, people speak English, but it depends, I mean, in Shanghai, I think it's really hard to say the percentage, but I would say most people can speak English because, if you need to have a job in Shanghai, like English is mandatory for most firms. But in
Okay.
Beijing, maybe not. But in Japan, I think English is getting more important than before. And for our school, I'm actually pretty surprised that, there are a lot of students in our school, like we teach business level English to adults, right? And most of Japanese students that I have met so far, they speak really good English.
And why do you think there's been an increase in the level of English recently?
Well, with the rise of tourism, there are a lot of foreigners in Japan, and it has brought big money to
Uh-huh.
the country. I think that's number one. And also, there are Japanese companies that are having international departments or doing international business with other countries. So that's why English is getting more important. But on the other hand, I have to say, Japanese people are afraid of making mistakes because of their culture. They don't want to,
Oh,
yeah, bring trouble to other people so they're kind of like embarrassed or ashamed if they cannot how should I say, express themselves correctly. And especially, in Japanese, in this language, they don't have some pronunciations. For example, the R sound
right.
and the V sound is also hard, and also TH sound. So yeah, that's why people make jokes about Japanese people speaking English, right?
Uh-huh.
Like lice.
Yeah, flight lice, right?
Yeah, like lice. Yeah. But actually, they can pronounce it for sure.
Uh-huh.
It's more about muscle training.
Okay.
Mhm.
And is that not a similar challenge for Chinese learners?
Not really. I think Chinese learners, we struggle more about the accent.
Okay.
Because yeah, because Chinese, I think the way Chinese people speak is louder, and like we have a different rhythm when we speak. So when it comes to speaking English, it's really interesting. I was actually teaching my mom English this morning, and she said, I don't, I don't like, I don't like, I don't like rice. And it was funny to me because, yeah, I think she was using her Chinese mindset or Chinese way of,
Okay.
pronunciation to try to pronounce English. So yeah.
And about the being ashamed thing, is that the same in China or just to like a lesser degree or what?
Oh, lesser degree. For sure. I think Chinese people, we're really, we're kind of like straightforward, and we are not really shy. Well,
Shameless.
yeah, I wouldn't say that, but I think people are really brave. We don't mind making mistakes, like my dad. When he travels abroad, even with, gestures, he can express himself fearlessly.
All right. Super interesting to hear about the differences between Japanese and Chinese attitudes. I love the very first answer to the question, where do you live? She said, now I live in Japan. I live in Tokyo, but I was born and raised in China. I know a lot of people around the world live in a different city to the one they were born in. And as this is often the very first question in English exams, then this response is perfect. So for me, I could say, I live in Alicante, but I was born and raised in Ireland. Really nice and simple. Then Xing had lots of fantastic language to talk about speaking English with confidence or not. So to start off, she said Japanese people are often afraid of making mistakes, that they are sometimes embarrassed or ashamed. Okay, these two adjectives are very similar in meaning. The difference is that ashamed is more about feeling guilty because you did something morally wrong, like lying or cheating, whereas embarrassed is more about feeling awkward or self conscious, like when you make a mistake or you call your teacher mom at school or something. So, when speaking about languages, I guess embarrassed makes most sense because you feel self conscious, although I suppose some people could feel ashamed too. So, she said they feel embarrassed or ashamed if they cannot, how should I say, express themselves correctly. I love the timing in this sentence. She gave a couple of pauses before and after, how should I say, to tell the listener, I'm considering the correct way to say this. If they cannot, how should I say, express themselves correctly. Another alternative instead of how should I say would be how should I put this? Like if someone gives a really terrible performance and you have to give them feedback, you could say, your performance, how should I put this, needs improvement. Other useful adjectives she used were shy, brave, and straightforward, which is clear, simple, and direct. And she said her dad expresses himself fearlessly. Lovely adverb, meaning, of course, without fear, not afraid to make mistakes. I kind of tongue in cheek suggested that Chinese people are shameless, and Xing quickly dismissed that. She said, I wouldn't say that. Shameless kind of has negative connotations, like when you should be ashamed of what you are doing, but you aren't. Like the girl shamelessly robbed the sweets from the little child. Tongue in cheek, in case you are wondering, is when you say something that is a bit cheeky but intended to be funny, kind of in an ironic way. And Xing understood that, which is something we talk about a bit later in our chat, understanding humor in different languages. So well done, Xing. Just one little error to pick up on, and it's quite a common one, was when she said most of Japanese students speak good English. Okay, so the problem here is with of, most of Japanese students. Okay, you can say this correctly two ways. Most Japanese students or most of the Japanese students. If you're talking more in general, then most Japanese students would be best to use. Or if you're talking more specifically, like in this situation, it would be best to use most of the Japanese students I've met. A small little error, but one that a lot of people make. Obviously, you've got a fantastic level of English. Did you learn that in the school system in China?
No. I mean, English is mandatory in most Chinese schools. And it's actually similar to Japan. It's also really important here. However, it's more about passing exams.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I don't know about these days, but when I was a student back then, speaking was never it was never a thing that people paid attention to. It was all about grammar and reading and writing and listening. And I think the turning point for me was when I was 16. I went to Australia for a summer camp.
Uh-huh.
And that was the time, I started to realize, oh, speaking is really important. And that was the turning point actually in my life because I decided to study abroad because of that experience. And so to answer your question, back to yeah, that was a long story. I actually learned my English when I was studying in the US and the UK. I used to study in these two countries for 6 years.
Okay, great. So now at the moment you're teaching business English to Japanese learners. And as a non-native English teacher, does that bring any advantages or disadvantages, do you think?
Let's talk about disadvantages, okay? Because for me, there are two big challenges. Number one, perfectionism. And number two, your ego, which is my ego here, because I am a perfectionist for sure, and I'm trying not to be one. And when you're having that mindset, it's really hard to to allow yourself make mistakes. And I try to be a role model for my students because you know you only learn after making mistakes. But being a teacher is difficult because you think you should know everything. You feel embarrassed or ashamed when you make mistakes, right? And you really need to conquer that fear of making mistakes. So I
Yeah,
would say those.
I think
Um,
that's a great observation, but I think it's a very unfair pressure that is on non-native English speakers because me as a native English speaker, when I teach English in classes, I don't know everything, but I don't feel so guilty, I think, as you do. You know, like if I don't know something, like I'm like, okay, guys,
uh-huh.
I don't know it. And it's like, okay, it's fine. Like you don't know everything in Chinese, I'm sure. There's some words that
Mhm.
you don't know or whatever. And that's
Yeah,
fine. But like as a non-native speaker, you're like, I have to be perfect. Whereas a native speaker is like, okay, I know what I know, and like that's a fair enough level, you know. So there's
yeah.
kind of like an extra burden almost on a non-native speaker.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said, that's why I said it was an albatross, like really. But it's also a good lesson for me that I'm, trying to tell myself every single day when I'm at work, go with the flow. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whenever you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Just admit it and
Yeah.
admit that you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. That's totally fine,
And
right?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
getting better at it actually.
Great. And then on the other hand, like from my experience working with non-native English speaking teachers,
Mhm.
like they're often better at grammar than the native English speaking teachers because they've studied it and mastered it. Whereas I remember when I started teaching English and people were like, teach me the present perfect or whatever. And I was like, what the hell is that? I never heard of it, you know? And so do you have an advantage in that
Yeah, that's
context, do you
the
think?
good point of being a non-native speaker because we have had our struggles before.
Yeah.
So we know how our students feel like when they're facing the same issue or the same problems,
Yeah, you
right?
can empathize,
So
right?
yeah, I can empathize for sure. So that's the big point. And also and I think when you when you are talking to a non-native speaker, um like you just mentioned, we are really picky about our own grammar, right? So we try to make it easier for the student to understand everything.
Hmm.
So so I think we have developed this mechanism to help them to learn, and that's the that's our advantage, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I think every English teacher has to realize that as well and adjust their language depending on the level. Or every, not even an English teacher, if you travel around the world, like, I don't know, I've traveled quite a bit and you can't speak your usual complex language. Of course, you have to tone it down and speak a kind of general, understandable English when you travel, like to be understood by everybody. Some super vocabulary here. The first one is albatross. And I must confess that I didn't know the meaning of this word when I first heard it. So the context was when we were talking about non native English teachers feeling this extra burden. And she said it was an albatross. So I have learned that an albatross, as well as its original meaning as a type of seabird, also has this metaphorical meaning of something that you want to be free from because it's causing you problems. For example, Maria's criminal past is like an albatross around her neck. Or Andrea's student debt has become a bit of an albatross. It'll take forever to pay it off. Really nice. I didn't know that one. A lovely phrasal verb came up at the end of our chat there. I said you have to tone your language down when traveling or speaking to people with lower levels of English. To tone something down means to make it less intense or to reduce the level of something, like the tone of a color in a painting, for example, which is where this expression comes from. We often use this when speaking about language. Like if someone is speaking in an aggressive manner, you can say, all right, tone it down. Let's have a civilized conversation. Speaking of conversation, I thought it was pretty interesting to listen back to myself and Xing's interaction. So many yeahs. We had, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, you can empathize, right? Yeah, you can empathize for sure. And yeah, totally. All right, so this is exactly how people interact in real life. Loads of yeahs. Is it appropriate for an exam situation? Yeah, it is. I mean, of course, we are repeating yeah a lot of times, but we add on words like totally, exactly, and for sure. So there is actually a lot of variety in the end. Something else good to use in an exam would be the idiom to go with the flow. She said that when she's at work, she goes with the flow. This means she is relaxed and accepts whatever happens and deals with it without getting too worried about it. You could use this when talking about something like a holiday too, like, I don't like to make plans. I prefer to just go with the flow, see what happens. A couple of small pronunciation corrections to pick up on. One, ironically, was with the word perfectionist and perfectionism. Okay, so the stress here should be on the second syllable, perfectionist, perfectionism. The other one was with mechanism. This one should be stressed on the first syllable, mechanism. These can be tricky because, for example, with mechanical, we stress the second syllable, but with mechanism, we stress the first. You got to trust your ears with these as much as possible. So the more language you're exposed to, the more likely you are to pronounce these correctly. Do you have a favorite word or expression in English?
Well, the only thing that came to my mind uh, was spontaneous.
Wow.
I just like this word for no reason. I don't know. I just like it because it feels really free. And yeah, like I don't think I need to give you a specific reason for that. I just like it
Uh,
for what
you
it is. Yeah.
you like the meaning of it or the sound of it or what?
I like all of it.
Wow.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm also trying to live it
Right.
the way it is. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a
So
personal motto for you.
I
Be
think so.
spontaneous.
I think so. Yeah, be spontaneous.
All right, cool. Nice. And any other aspects of English or the fact that you're able to speak English that you enjoy?
Listening to your podcast.
Oh,
That was pretty British. Okay, podcast. Sorry. Listening to your podcast is it's really helpful actually. Especially when I was preparing for the C2 exam, I was I was crazy. Like every day trying to get more information and more vocab, right? And I think, there are a lot of good podcast shows that you can listen to on Spotify or, iTunes. I think that's the name for that, right? Okay. And also there are a lot of interviews. I like watching interviews.
hmm.
So you can really get to, you have this chance to expand your vocab. It's more about everyday vocab, but to a different level. And and also, American dramas. I love watching it because like movies and dramas, you know, it's really where you can get that cultural, like the culture thing.
Right.
And you can get why people laugh at things. And it's extremely important when it comes to learning English because you need to know why people, you know, why is it funny? Right?
Yeah.
You need to get that sense of humor in
Yeah.
order to really get to know this language. And I think also reading books, it's really fun. I'm keeping this habit, reading books in English. And though my C2 reading score sucks, but I haven't given up. I'm still working on that. So yeah, keep it as your habit. It's really important, I think.
Yeah, it's just such a fantastic way to learn vocabulary and grammar, like in a more
Mhm.
fun, natural way, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny comment is so on the ball because like it's so hard. I think that's a very high level thing though, right? Like to learn humor in another language is really tricky, like because so many jokes are like word plays and things like that, that it like you have to have a really good level to get it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, right? And I think it's really, it's more about the mindset. So now I'm a trilingual. I can speak Chinese, Japanese, and English, right? And sometimes, when you can speak the language, you can actually put yourself in their shoes
Hmm.
to think. You can really understand why people think that way from a different culture, from a different country. So it actually brings you more understanding and more empathy and love in a
Yeah.
sense. I've met people who only speak one language, their mother tongue, and often they're kind of like close-minded and they're not really, I'm not saying all of them, but if you compare to bilinguals or trilinguals or people who speak more than four languages, I think those people, they're more open-minded in the sense that they're more curious about the world, and
Hmm.
they can empathize more because, they have many different kind of mindsets they can switch in between, right? So I think I really encourage people, even though if you are at your 60s, I have a lot of students who are at their 60s or 70s in Japan, they're still learning. I really admire that. And it's inspiring to me that it's never too late to learn anything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great. A question popped into my head there when you were speaking about the three different languages. Do you feel different in the three different languages?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like I have different uh characteristics. I'm playing different roles when I'm speaking different languages, right?
Okay, well,
When I'm speaking American English, when I'm speaking
I
English,
thought you
I
were going to
feel,
say American. Oh my God.
American English, yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah, because it feels different. I don't know, like when you're speaking British English, it feels more royal in a sense, like you're more like, distant, right? I don't know. And yeah, when I'm speaking English, I feel I'm more outgoing.
Okay,
I don't know why. I think probably because this language itself is really straightforward. Yeah, the
okay.
expression is just really straightforward. So it really brings out that part of me to be an extroverted person, I guess.
Wow,
Uh-huh.
okay,
But yeah, being a Chinese speaker, being a Chinese, I think I would say the humble side in
okay.
me. Yeah, the Japanese character is more about ah, like feel shy a little bit and yeah, don't want to make mistakes. Like, oh yeah, excuse me, like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, right? But that's like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
encapsulates those three cultures in a way as well, right? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Really, really, it's really interesting. Like I've been observing myself. This is really interesting. This is really interesting. I went to a sushi restaurant today with my husband, and I caught myself afraid of asking the chef questions, even though I knew how to ask the questions.
right.
I wasn't sure whether, it was appropriate to ask the question.
Yeah.
But when I'm speaking Chinese or English, I wouldn't even think about that. I just yeah, go ahead and ask.
Wow, fascinating insights there. I wonder how you guys feel when you speak English. Maybe you could leave a comment on Spotify, or I'll put a post on Instagram too, and you can say if you feel differently when speaking English. As she said, English brings out the extrovert in her. This phrasal verb to bring out in this context means to draw out or to produce a certain quality. Like teaching teenagers brings out the worst in her. She gets so frustrated. Or adversity often brings out the best in people. When she was telling her anecdote about the sushi restaurant, she said she caught herself afraid of asking a question. If you catch yourself doing something, then you kind of suddenly realize that you're doing something. It's like a moment of self awareness. For example, I caught myself shouting at my daughter this morning. I felt so ashamed. Or I caught myself about to watch another stupid reel on social media, so I switched off the phone. We had some top idioms here too. I told her one of her comments was on the ball. This means it's really accurate or showing great awareness. Like your decision to buy property last year was on the ball. It has worked out well. Or you could say the politician was really on the ball in that TV interview. He had a great answer for every question they asked him. The other idiom to highlight is to put yourself in someone's shoes. I think a lot of languages have some variation of this idiom, meaning to imagine yourself in someone else's position. Like, put yourself in my shoes. What would you do? The last thing I want to shine a light on is the use of the word get. In her first answer here, she used get in 5 different ways. You're probably all aware that get has hundreds of different uses in English, so I'm going to challenge you to say what the meaning is of the 5 different gets that Xing used. I'll give you the example. If you like, you can pause the audio and think about what the meaning is, and I will then give the explanation. Are you ready? So the first one is, I was trying to get more information. So get here means to acquire new information. Next is, I like watching interviews as you get to expand your vocab. Get here means you have the opportunity to expand your vocab. Number 3, TV dramas are where you get that culture thing. Okay, so this one means to find that culture thing. 4 is you can get why people laugh at things, meaning you can understand why people laugh. With this one, you have to emphasize the get when you say it. Do you get the joke? Yeah, I get it. And the last one was to get to know this language, meaning to start to learn more about it. All right, 5 gets with different meanings. Only another 500 different meanings of get to learn. You'll just have to listen to more podcasts to get to hear about them. And that is all we have time for today. Thanks so much to Xing for telling us about her experiences. It was great. And thank you very much for listening. Next up is going to be episode 1 of season 6. Until then, take care. Trevor.